Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Pastor Email, and we are back for 10th season of Fresh Fire, 10 years of youth ministry. We have been through it all. And this year, we are launching a podcast called Behind the Fire, where we're inviting you behind the scenes to see all the great stuff that we have done, how services are put together, and other amazing things. But our first event, our first moment, is we are going back to the table where it all started. The same people who sat down to put Fresh Fire together, we are back at the table to talk about how it started and all of our great thoughts. You're gonna enjoy this. Join me back at the table. Hey, what's going on, everybody? We are back at the table, and as Fresh Fire enters its 10th season, 10 years of ministry, we're back at the table. The same people who started Fresh Fire, the core set of leadership. We have Fern, Melissa, Takira, Courtney, Steph, Andre. We were at the very first table planning for Fresh Fire. So we want to take a moment to be back at the table and just sort of recap the history and the meaning behind the movement. So I think you're going to enjoy this. My first question, right, is it's been 10 years since we've been at this table. What were some of your, and let's just be honest, right? What were some of your initial impressions after the first table? Like, what do you remember about that day? If I'm not mistaken, Courtney, like, stop me if I'm wrong, but weren't you the one who put the table together? Because Jarrell had came in, and Jarrell really didn't know us per se, so he didn't know who was who. I think Courtney was the one who actually put that first table together. What do y'all remember about the first table, and what were your thoughts walking away from it?
It was so far back, and I was just didn't expect it to last that long. So I have no, I have no clue what happened at the very first table, honestly.
Okay.
So
anybody actually remember being at the first?
I do. I remember being excited because we didn't really have something youthful that was like explosive in our church. We were just doing things like sporadic here and there. And then when we all came to the table, we was like, I think we had a Great Adventures. What y'all call it here? Great America, Great Adventure. Great Adventures. We had that trip, and we was like, oh yeah, we should do this, we should do that. We had all these ideas, but we just needed some type of organization. So I remember the excitement.
Anybody else remember the table? No? You really don't?
I don't even think I was at that table.
Okay, so you should leave.
I should.
It's been great, Dre. Thank you for your services.
Thank you. Come again.
So you know what I've been settled on is I walked away from the table, and this is no shade, right? I walked away from the table. First of all, I remember being very late to the table. Because if you know me, anything I'm late for is because I don't want to show up. I remember being kind of late for the table and sort of walking away from the experience like, because growing up in Pilgrim, I've seen us do a lot of great things and it not land or last. So I was almost like fearful to even really be excited about it. Even with Jarrell coming in, I had not known Jarrell. He was here, we were here at the same time, but we sort of were like in different age brackets. So I wasn't like starstruck like everybody else was. I was just like, no, for real, I mean, like there was no expectation of like, oh, the great Jarrell Solomon is here and it's gonna be, I didn't know him like that. So I walked away like, this is not going to be anything. This is not going to last. Don't get excited about it. I was wrong. I was very wrong. I'm proud to admit I was wrong, but that was my first impression of it. And I remember everybody just going around and just being like, giving their ideas, and it was like, is it going to last? Because I've seen us put energy into a lot of stuff, and we would do it for a month, do it for 2 months, and then we would never see it again, no matter how good it was, no matter how popular it was. And that was where I was with Fresh Fire. I was just like, we'll see. And to be honest with you, even after the first service, I was sort of like, yeah, dope. We'll see. Like, I knew what to expect. What were your hopes for Fresh Fire when you realized that it was happening?
Honestly, had no hopes. Like I said, I really didn't, like you said, I really didn't expect it to go that long. I didn't expect it to last that long. We were good for putting things together that weren't sustainable. So I didn't see it sustaining that long. It was a great moment for the youth because it struck up, you know what I mean, a newfound passion and stuff for it. But for it to last as long as it did, it was really interesting. But I think what happened was pairing you with him made it a little bit more sustainable because we were your friends, so we weren't gonna let you drop it. Yeah. So I think that's what kind of happened for me, because either way, whether I was there or not, my Friday nights are going to be good.
Right.
But being a part of Fresh Fire forced me to grow up a lot quicker, mature a lot quicker, because eyes were on you. So, I didn't know how far it would go, but I definitely knew at that moment it was just like, we'll see how this goes.
That's exactly. I felt embarrassed like thinking about it as I'm recapping, but that was my honest initial. It was like, we'll see. we'll see. What were you all had any hopes or expectations for what Fresh Fire would be?
For me, I did hope that it would ignite something in the generation behind us, because the generation that came up with myself, Ferns, Andre, a lot of them aren't here. And I didn't want to see that for like TJ's group and Bus's group and the generation behind them. And it was, it was there for a little while, but then it kind of, things happened and it kind of fizzled away. But that was my hope, that the generation behind us would be ignited in a way that a lot of our peers growing up couldn't sustain.
Yeah.
I think to piggyback off of Melissa, I wanted to say that my hope was for us to be seen. I felt like in the beginning, being completely honest, we were rushed. I feel like we were doing, was it rehearsal every Friday? And then right after rehearsal, we would have service. And if Kathy was teaching like a big hymn, or if we had some big service, rehearsal would kind of go over the allotted time. And we all just sitting on the front row, guys, especially like, okay, like, all right, we got to do this, we got to do that, we got to set the lights. And it's like to look back at that moment to now, many people mislabeled it as like a little fellowship between a few youth people, but now it's a movement. So I feel like our hopes, well, my hope of just the young people feeling and being seen came to fruition.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think we just didn't want the next group to be kind of like forgotten about and felt like they weren't important enough or invested in enough or missed out because like there wasn't time put into them.
Yeah.
So I think that's what kind of pushed us too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and just piggyback off of what everybody else said, just the excitement, just to try to get them excited and get them to participate in what we were doing was major. And, like you all said, just things don't really kind of last that long. So it was like, okay, let's just try to, go out with a bang at least and then hope that, they still sustain and, be interested.
Yeah, definitely. Steph, you have anything?
I mean, nothing different than what y'all are saying. Just kind of like, I think it was like, the excitement was if we made it to another week, because it was like,
honestly,
it was like, oh, okay, they still want to do it. I mean, at that time, it was like, it was the friction of not just pastor, but bishop too. Like, so it was like, it was like two people that we had to kind of week after week, just kind of make sure it was like, all right, are they going to pull the plug this week? Oh no, are they still going? And so then, when you look up and it's 10 years later, it's like, all right, But,
and wrestling with the religious part of it that said things didn't have to be a certain way, right? So not just here, but in a lot of churches, you knew it was Youth Sunday because someone youthful prayed.
Yeah.
Someone youth did the scripture. But we were taking it to a whole nother level here. And I thought that was so powerful and so important. That was always my hope too, is it was always about the next generation to me too. I didn't know you guys felt like that, but that was definitely the biggest part. Do you guys remember how angry Bishop was about us doing that service when I think y'all were like fishing for gummy bears or something and whipped cream?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how angry you was.
I don't know what, now I'll be honest with you, I don't know what the game was about. I don't know why we were doing it. But you all were fishing in bowls of whipped cream for gummy bears.
I think it was just it was like a fun moment.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily tied in.
Right.
It was just like, okay, this is the game
And
segment.
it was like, God forbid you have a fun moment in church. Yeah. So, we honestly, y'all gonna get us. We gonna be we have accomplished so much. Like I was looking through some footage with the guys the other day, and I said to them, like, we really don't get credit for what we've done. From fashion shows to pew rallies to amusement parks to conferences to stage plays, food giveaways, toy drives. We have partnered with some of the greatest people in the city. We have done some tremendous stuff. What are some of the positive things, some of your favorite moments, something that really sticks out and makes you the most proud about what we have done?
It's not one thing in particular, but it's the fact that we were able to make it happen no matter what. Like, there were a lot of different obstacles thrown at us, and we were able to figure it out. Sometimes at Fresh Fest or whatever the case may be, something always happens. Something always goes wrong no matter how much you plan it. But we were able to figure it out and not let it weigh too much on you. And that always, made it happen. Even when we didn't have a bus to go to Great Adventure one time. Like, it was, what I'm saying? Like, it was just random things like that would happen at the last minute, and we figured it out. You know what I mean? So just moments like that, knowing that no matter what happens, we come together and we figure it out. that makes me happy. And, you know, it sets a great precedent for the people that's behind us.
Yeah, definitely. What's some of your favorite moments? Like when you close your eyes and you think, yeah, I was part of that. That makes me proud. Like what's those for you all?
I like the toy drives, especially the ones when we went to that shelter, seeing the smiles on those kids' faces. The one when we went to the community center up the block, that was really good. And then you just happened to preach, which was probably not on the agenda. But just seeing those kids be able to smile and, you know, because kids just associate Christmas with having toys, and to be able to provide that for a lot of families and a lot of kids, those are some of my favorite moments.
Yeah, toy drives were always good to me for me also. What do you guys think? What comes to mind? I know it's like so many, but.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say similar. I think that the toy drive, just because they were the toy drives mixed with the just going to the shelters, doing stuff for the kids, like this community stuff. Just because, not for nothing, like our church doesn't really do a lot of it. So for us to be able to kind of like take that mantle and be like, all right, cool, we'll do it, and be consistent with it. Even, you know, the other day, just doing the book bag drive. I think that those things are memorable. I mean, of course, the plays and certain services, those are all good. But I think that's kind of the bigger stuff where it's like, and we, like Fern's saying, we were doing it with no kind of roadmap. It was just kind of like, all right, cool, what we want to do.
That part.
All right, and then we just figured it out. Yeah.
You remember how many people stopped us and said they didn't even know we were a church up the block?
Yes, I do.
Like, you guys are open? Like, when? I'm like, every Sunday for the last 50 years. And I thought that was interesting. What else? What other thoughts you guys have? What moments?
I was gonna say the toy drive, but then also registration, especially in the beginning. And looking back,
That's
like,
a positive?
No, it is. And let me explain why. Because it was really chaotic. It was really like we would leave his house at like 4 a.m. But here's the thing, we all stayed and nobody was on no type of retainer. We weren't getting paid, but we were all just faithful to it because we believed in it. And looking back, it's like, wow, like, I don't even want to stay up at 3 a.m. in my own house, but it's like, here we are with a bunch of book bags and t-shirts. And
let's just get this straight. Everybody didn't stay up.
She was pregnant.
I had like a small baby. Like, what did
She said, I'll see y'all in the morning. And then we on Facebook like, everybody's tired. She's like, well, you should have went to bed. But that's so good. And no one had an attitude. We weren't at the table angry with each other, fighting, mad. We were laughing and eating and just like figuring it out.
And the next day, we all on Facebook like, who all tired at work? Like, well, I called off. Well, I'm not doing. And it was just like a moment. And I don't know. That was a big positive to me.
You know what? We were working toward a purpose.
Yeah.
And I think working toward a purpose and a goal is a big thing that's missing. You know, and I think that's why things aren't as fun at times. You know what I mean? We knew what we wanted to do. We knew the outcome. We knew the vision that you had. And working toward that and completing it was like a big deal for us. And we never wanted to drop the ball because we knew God gave you a particular vision, you know. And sometimes that's why people aren't excited. You know, they don't have a vision to work towards or nothing that they're working to. So it's like they're just, you know, meandering throughout life. And that's what happens a lot of times, especially in churches.
Yeah.
And that's why you see a lot of young people just like drifting away because it's getting really bad.
Right. Yeah,
out there.
Definitely. Any other moments that stick out to you?
And I mean, that what Burns is saying, which is what I was going to say, that is like very evident, even like when you talk about like the Fresh Fest and, you know, building sets and things, you know, not coming at the right time and we got to figure it out, like, and be there till like, you know, 11, 12, you know, the day of, I'm, you know, hammering, you know, staples in on the light, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, but just that ability to just be like, yo, we're going to get this done by any means. It doesn't matter the time, doesn't matter the sweat equity. And then just also seeing that like translate a little bit to the next generation to be able to say, hey, we got to pull this together. You know, got to pull them a little bit, but, you know, just to now have the mindset to be like, where can I help? Where can I get in? It's important.
Bro, we had to move the chairs off the stage before every service. Move them big chairs out the lobby. We had to rearrange that pulpit.
Yo.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's no joke. We talking about we had over 100 services, maybe.
Yeah.
Bro, that's a lot of stuff. You know, and then you added a service when you came back. You know what I'm saying? Just one Friday, you added an extra Friday. You know what I mean? And this is right after rehearsal. We get up, guys moving chairs while they talking. I mean, like Dre said, it's just the fact of getting it done, knowing what you wanted to do, you know, but that was a big deal for me.
And then just to add, just becoming everything that we needed, you know, like, you know, oh, we don't got nobody to stay to lock up. All right, I know I got the keys, like I know the building, like we can lock up. We don't got a sound person. All right, well, this person knows how to do the sound now, so we good. Like, you know, like what's the next thing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like
Even
those are
went
things.
live from the cell phone. At
Yeah.
one
Don't
point.
talk
Like,
about
we didn't
that.
have
Oh
cameras.
my God.
Oh, for real, we
My
didn't
phone
have a
was
lot
draining.
of
Oh, my
help,
goodness.
but we just made it work. We were watching the other day where we did moments where Courtney was like in the lobby before service started and was like doing like a pre-show just by herself, just walking through the sanctuary, introducing to the we have done some of everything. It's never been the same. We've always switched it up. We've always poured our blood, our sweat, our tears into this. I'm so proud of what we have accomplished. One of my greatest memories is my very first Fresh Fest at Homecoming, doing a pew rally and seeing the entire sanctuary packed. And I was like, because before that I was in pieces, like I can't do this. Like how are we gonna pull this together? This don't even make sense. People are not gonna support this. The entire sanctuary packed. Every single conference, our first that year we had over 200 registrants. Like who does that in a youth service? Who does it with just a youth group? I'm so proud of that. And I'm sorry, but we put on 2 stage plays. Like with our own playbills. We pulled the refrigerator from the office
Yes, we did.
downstairs, and Bishop said, well, how did I get the refrigerator? I wanted it to be like, he's like, yo, you're so interesting. I was like, I just saw it in my head. And what I'm most appreciative is it don't take a whole lot of explaining like why we have to do it. It's like, yo, I see a refrigerator. All right, we'll go get it. It's 4 of us. Let's try to get one person. And we stumbled our way down and we put it together. And those stage plays are still things that people are asking me about. We had our own people produce it and direct it and write it. Yo, people don't do that in their churches. We have, as a youth group, have accomplished a lot. We have accomplished a lot.
I was gonna say like the Fresh Fest weekend, like finding that balance of worship and then hanging out on Saturday, just having fun, you know, just being ourselves. So that's good for me.
Yeah.
I don't know how we got that fridge back upstairs. Yo, we was sliding. Yo, everybody went home. That we had to get ramps to push it up the bruh.
Yeah.
Cause that's awkward trying to get that up them steps, bro. No, man. They have no clue, bro.
All right, so here's a very important question. What do you think our contribution was to the culture of Pilgrim?
We had to break down a lot of things that was, you know, shout out to street clothes now that we could wear at church, but the robes and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like the blind mentorship, we were never really taught. Like, you know, even coming as deacons, we weren't really taught what to do. We had to pay attention to the people before us. And they had a chance to do that plus ask questions, you know what I mean? Learn different things, you know? So just watching how you do leadership, you know, watching how we move, you know, around you. Now it's easier for Caleb, you know what I mean? And stuff like that. And flowing and worship is easier for Adrian, you know? So there's those people in front of them that they can always go back and ask questions to. And the thing about it is mentorship is not just somebody being in front of you, but somebody being in front of you doing what you know what I mean, do to a degree.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not just random questions that you're asking somebody who's done this already.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They can go back and ask. So to answer your question directly, you know, just breaking down a lot of the barriers that were in front of them to make it a lot easier.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to make it easier. For some reason, generations prior want to make it difficult. Like you have to scrub the whole floor of the toothbrush to prove your loyalty. That's a little weird to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just doesn't make sense why I wouldn't make it easier for Taylor, my daughter. You know, why you wouldn't make it easier for Ethan and Evan and 2 girls. You know what I'm saying? Name escaped me for a second. But you always want to make the way easier. And for some reason, I don't know why proving your loyalty was something that you had to do with very harsh techniques. But like I said, to answer your question again, I think just breaking down some of the barriers and some of the work that would go into it, I believe.
And I think we don't realize that mentorship is not only leading, but pushing.
Yes.
And sometimes, and I think that's the kind of leader God has developed me into, was you have to be able to push, which means as a leader, I must be able to take a step behind you and still be a leader. And that was one of the things that God always dealt with me is you can still lead from behind. You can push people. That's why I gave Fernando a service and Andre a service and Courtney a service every year. When she couldn't do it, we still honored Courtney because it meant more to me to push you all to be. And with that, God somehow made me an even greater leader. So I think that's so important. Mentorship is something that because before, one of my biggest memories of Fresh Fire, we were away at a youth conference and every youth department was trying to present something. And we were, with a whole youth department, scrambling and crying and embarrassed about not being able to put together a praise team, a dance ministry. We didn't have anyone who could expedite, and now we have all of that stuff. If I called someone to preach in my stead, there would be someone who could step up and minister. We can pray, we can flow, we had a dance team, we had a step team, we've had intercessors, we've done all of that. And that's what real mentorship looks like. Is I'm not a good leader if there's no extension of me. You know what I mean? So I think that was powerful. What were you gonna say, Drake?
So just adding to that, also just the ability to be able to encourage and correct while they're still doing it, right? So it wasn't like a avenue where it was like, they did something wrong and it's just like, okay, we're not gonna use you no more. Like it's just over for you. It's like, you gave them the ability to be like, okay, next time when you do that, think about this, or pause there, or do this or do that, right? Just to be able to give some type of guidance as to the gift that that they're working on. So I think that's like a huge positive for what's happening now.
Yeah. And we don't talk much about the stigma that went with what we did, right? Where people were trying to convince leadership that we wanted to be so separate. And I thought that to be so strange. What was the crime in young people gathering in church and being excited about a youth church? But it was almost the demise of what we did here. To be honest with you, those were the moments where I felt the most broken, because I knew I was hearing God, I was putting something together. There were benefits, and we were seeing young people delivered and seeing young people shift and seeing young people who were finally walking into purpose. And then one side of my ear was like, oh, but you it's too separate. They're too excited on a Friday night.
It was a crazy narrative, bro.
Crazy narrative. Why do they worship like that on a Friday but not on a Sunday? Why is that even a discussion?
Because it's a terrible narrative. And the reason it's such a terrible narrative is the young people were always forced to do both. They were always forced to, hey, if you're going, we got a youth choir, everybody's excited, but you got to be on the adult choir too. People started walking off. But if you go to Fresh Fire, sis, you didn't have to out yourself like that, sis. You didn't have to out yourself. If you go to Fresh Fire, you got to come on Sunday. But it was never, hey, if you're adults and you come on Sunday, you got to go to Fresh Fire.
Yeah. That part never happened.
It was never.
Never.
If you were a young person and you did something, you were scolded. If you were an older person, did the same thing, wouldn't say nothing to you. And it's just a weird narrative. And there was always a narrative, you know what I mean? And to be separate churches, we were the ones holding the baskets on Sunday. We were the ones that were singing on the choir. The choir was 85% young people at one point. So if you removed the young people from the service and just said, okay, no problem, we'll just let the older people have whatever age you want to start it at, do cameras, do sound, do praise and worship,
yeah.
Do preaching, do what you do on Sundays. Let's see how easy it would be. And I promise you in 2 weeks it'll be totally different.
To be separate, you have to detach yourself from something, right? But I feel like, thank you. I feel like everything we did in Fresh Fire, we brought to Sundays. If you think about the pandemic, some of the people at this table were bringing their ideas for Sunday morning services to flow, to alleviate the weight from our leader so that she could just worry about studying and giving the word while we took care of media. Okay, well, what type of system, what type of software do we need to go live? Who holds the phone and monitors 200 people calling in just to listen to the service? So we never detached ourselves from Pilgrim. We brought Pilgrim into Fresh Fire. So whoever thinks that doesn't know Fresh Fire, and to be quite honestly, they don't know Pilgrim.
Yeah, and they don't attend Fresh Fire service.
Right.
It was honestly a design to divide leadership.
100%.
It was to make me uncomfortable being connected to her. And it did for a while. It really weighed on me. It was the hardest part of leading. And I don't know if you've ever saw it in me, But it was just hard for me to realize, like, this is what I hear God say do. And then for you all to say, yo, whatever, one of the greatest memories is when I couldn't figure out how we were going to do LeBron Friend. And I'm like, yo, let's just do local. And every single leader in that group said, no, we're not. How much you need? And within 3 hours, we were able to book the speaker because you all believed in what God said. Can I tell you, that is so crazy to me that people would make it seem like that's bad. That we would be still like, oh, they stand and they brag about how much money they raise. But other youth group is raising every dime they need to do stuff and not pull on the church. Like, why was that a bad thing? It wasn't until my old age that I realized it was just a design to divide the church. Because if we weren't in place, there would be no security for the future of the church. And that's not an arrogant thing. I'm looking in the camera. Because that's what people always corrupt narratives. This is not us sitting at the table thinking we held the church together, but we were a part of what held the church together. And why is that wrong to admit? That we participated, that we worked, that we put our blood and sweat tears, not just in Fresh Fire, but the entire ministry. That we are responsible for making sure the next leaders of the church were in place. And it was difficult, but I think we did contribute. You want to say something?
No, I mean, like you said, even going to how much money we raise, everything that you raise or any money that's brought in goes to what we do.
Yeah, can you say that again for those on?
It goes to what we do. You know what I mean? The props to, just making sure the kingdom of God is taken care of. I mean, not to say, but Convocation, we talk about how much money we raise all the time. You know what I mean? Whenever Bishop wanted to do something, he said it's how much money he needed. And he said, count that money before we leave. And then we said it. But it's always a problem because of who they feel probably shouldn't be in place. But anything that he does, doesn't go in his pockets.
It's never.
Trust me.
It's never.
Trust me.
And to be honest with you, even if it did, it wouldn't be enough to equalize what I've given out to Fresh Fire. True. That there are times when I've never taken from Fresh Fire, I would just give from my own money with my wife to make sure things were done. Because to me, it was like, if you see that, why are you making them pay for that? Like, you're the one who want to do all these props, go get the props. And half the time, that money never even came from Fresh Fire. Because I wanted to make sure that when kids needed stuff for school supplies, that I was able to give them. And no one had to know that I was giving somebody $100 to get sneakers for school. That's what the money went to.
Yeah.
I would never do that. I would never do that.
And there wasn't enough offering, trust me.
No.
I looked at the offering.
Do you remember the week we raised
83?
We raised $86.
Yeah, $86. And we had to pay musicians.
I said, Fernand, you gotta be kidding me.
And he gave what? You gave about 40?
I gave 40. $86. No one talks about that. We have to, for some reason, have to pay for our own musicians on Friday night. Yep. That we had to pay for our own speakers. That we have supported. We've been pretty self-sufficient for the last 10 years. That we have a system in place where we were the ones who would book our speaker, pick up our speaker, take care of a hotel for our speaker, make sure the speaker got out of town, guest artists. Yeah. We did that ourselves. We didn't have a format. We created a format. We created a blueprint, and we did what we needed to do. Yeah. Man, I'm proud of it. I'm sorry if it makes me seem like I know what I'm doing, but I do.
Yeah, but that's for Fridays and Sundays.
Yeah.
After we did Fresh Fire, we had to come back to Sundays and operate at our highest level as well.
What are some of the difficulties? What were some of the difficulties we had to face? Like,
lack of support. 2, lack of support. 3, lack of support. That's going to go down the list, and that's in a lot of different areas.
Yeah.
We really had to fight with people who were supposed to be doing the job we were doing. We had to fight to get it done. I have no clue why I was in the back teaching the praise team music. It just didn't make sense to me.
But you know the crazy part is when I said to him, bro, I need you to be in charge of the praise team. There was never like a what? It was like, if that's what you need. And he would sit back there in rehearsals and be teaching parts and stuff. Like, it's just crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. God brought us through that season for sure. Because it was just a fight to get musicians. It was a fight to use the building for certain things. It was a fight to make sure the whole praise team sung. It was just like a lot of rules that were being brought up around
Almost
Fresh
cre-
Fire
Yeah,
too.
it seemed like it was
Created
created for
Yeah.
us to be discouraged and just be
Yeah.
like, well, forget it. Y'all want us to move the pulpit? How we going to move this big old pulpit? Y'all want us to move chairs? How we going to do that? We need $1,500, but we're not giving y'all the $1,500, so figure it out. It was just like a lot of obstacles were put in place seemingly to just discourage us and be like, well, if they're not going to give it to us, then they're not going to help us. If they're not going to make the way for us, then I don't know how we're going to do it. But like we all been saying, like we just pushed through, found a way and made it happen. And then after a while, when you see that consistently year after year, it's like, what can't we do?
It opened up a lot of doors for us to be able to create, be able to step in where we can and not have all those boundaries put on us.
Yeah, that's so true. So lack of support, okay, that's one of the things. And this is not just for us. This is also going to serve as a document for those who are coming behind us. They'll be able to look at this and go, okay, that was their issue. How do we? Well, they won't, that particular thing they won't have to deal with. That won't happen to them, not while I'm here. But this will also serve as a document for them. So what other things that we have to sort of like wrestle with?
I would say opinions, in and out. But then I remember we did our first girls chat downstairs, and we had the little donuts. And I was working at the church. I was like, I want 50 donuts, little pink hearts. I love Fresh Fire, and I remember
You poured your heart into that.
I remember one girl, and it was a disaster. They were arguing.
They had to call me out. Yeah, you having fun here?
One girl walked out, and I remember one girl said, "Don't ever do this again. This is horrible." But I remember it to this day. At any time I felt like I did do things with the young ladies, I always had that opinion in the forefront. Like, okay, I don't want it to fail. I want them to kind of be free and talk and just fellowship and everything. So just dealing with that and people not supporting when they are a part of the movement, that was horrible. And then the opinions outside. I remember we did the what was it, the Halloween bash?
Holy Wayne, oh my
Holy
God.
Wayne.
They crucified me on Facebook.
That. They crucified the screen outside. Like, are we not like trying to bring people in the kingdom? Like, what are we doing here? That was hard because what people fail to realize is that we're human, right? We're wives, we're mothers, we have our own stuff going on. So it's like when we pour our all into ministry and we're excited about it, and we really sincerely want to help people, but then you have the saints who's supposed to be praying, covering you and pushing you through, throwing opinions at leadership, throwing opinions at us, and it just makes it more heavier. It makes it more discouraging. So that was hard, and it still is hard sometimes. But
It's very hard. They crucified me on Facebook for that, so much so that I could never do it again. And everyone who crucified it, they then had one the next year, and we didn't have one. And I remember just crying so hard because at ours we had 85 children who showed up. When you watch footage of what we did, it was one of the most amazing things that we've ever done, and yet we couldn't do it again because of the opinions of those who did not go here. Because the truth of the matter, and the bishop said it today, is like sometimes people will distract you because they want to do it. 100%. And they'll talk you out of it so that they can do it. Every single person who talked about it, I watched their church do it the next year. And I thought to myself, oh my God, that was one of probably my worst moments. Canceling the pop-up and that feedback from Holy Wayne. I thought it was something so innocent because if for years they didn't let us do anything. So I said, well, if you don't want us to do it, why can't we create something where they can come here, be with us, and we do it together like that? And under a lot of pressure, she still allowed me to do it. She didn't show up, but she allowed me to do it, and it was an amazing event. But at the same time, I took a lot of hits for that, man. Took a lot of hits for that.
And then everybody started doing it.
Everybody started doing it.
And that's the key, man. You just gotta, and that's the one thing I learned is just do it. Whatever happens, happens. If God don't want it to be done, then he'll cancel it. He canceled the pop-up for sure, the first one. You know, we all posted the day before.
It's too soon.
Listen,
oh
man.
my God, that thing hurt my heart, man. That thing hurt I don't even know why. It's so silly.
Nah, we were all posting the day before. We don't care about COVID. We all outside. And then the city said, nah anymore. Yeah. So he literally shut everything down if he wanted to, you know? So that was, yeah.
So what other things did you all feel like we dealt with that we want to make sure that the next generation don't have to deal with? because this will be something they can look back. Not just Adrian and them team, but even like the team after Adrian, we'll be able to pull up the first team that did it and like, let's learn from this. So what other things? Lack of support, obviously, dealing with opinions. One of the things I'm glad we never had to deal with was there not being a move of God in any of our services. I mean, and we moved around quite a bit. We were in the sanctuary for the longest, and then we were in the overflow, and then we were in the cafe. Then at one point we was just one service once a month. Maybe it was
One side of the
strange.
church.
Yeah, the musicians were behind the curtain.
Strange, man. It was strange, man.
I think like mentorship, just letting them know that we're here. They need a mentor, if they need someone to model after, because we didn't necessarily, like Ferns alluded to, not having your gifts being told to you or anything, just being in place for them, because we've done it before, we've done it already, and they have a blueprint, which we didn't have. We just had to figure it out, roaming around aimlessly. A lot of hard times, a lot of tough times, but we figured it out without a blueprint. But they have a blueprint. They have men that they can come to, young men trying to get married, trying to have a family. They have that example in you and Ferns and Steph. They have motherhood and Kira, Courtney, and myself. Like anything that they need, they can come to us for it. So I think that's really important to like instill in them now.
What do you think your personal contributions was to the ministry? Like what did you do? What did you bring to the table?
Labor and wisdom.
I was gonna say don't joke. It was way more than that.
No. But see, the thing about it is, you see that part, right? But the ministry as a whole, I've watched so many people who probably have made less contributions. People at this table come in, go in immediately. You know what I mean? Running at full steam. And you be sitting back like, I know how to do that way better than them. and we talking about Pilgrim Academy since 3 years old. So that was every bit of 89 till now. Youth for Christ Choir, Cathedral Choir, whatever the choir was called after that. You know what I'm saying? Talking about deaconhood,
Combined
all that stuff.
choir.
Yeah, combined.
They didn't even have a name for it.
Right.
The combined.
You see what I'm saying? So just watching that, like, you may know those things, but the entire ministry may not know that. You know what I mean? But they may know labor. You know what I mean? Convocation comes, we need guys. New Jersey church needs to be broken down and demolished. Come out and just grab I wasn't a contractor, but I'm out there with
sheetrock and
bro, I'm out there with glasses and gloves doing this to chisel and rock, and you know what I'm saying? Like, so, you know what I mean? The most they've seen from me is labor, catching people and stuff like that. They have no idea how my mind is. You know what I mean? They don't know how my mind works. You know, they just say, oh, he's a good kid. I seen him grow up here. That's as much as you know. So I could say wisdom and all that stuff, but that may be the fresh fire. But to the entire whole, and that goes back to the gifts thing, you may have people sitting in your audience who may be in the right places, but you don't know what their gift is, and they're not being utilized. You know what I mean? You got prayer warriors sitting out there. I'll never forget, we went to the youth conference. What was that? 2017 with Lathan Wood. He was like, wouldn't it be a lot easier if we were utilizing the gifts in our churches? So if you as somebody who's a seer, and then you have an intercessor, and the seer sees what to be praying for in the audience, and the intercessor can go out and pray for them without just saying a whole bunch of random things, hoping God hears them. You see what I'm saying? So
You know why we don't? Because that would take training.
yes,
Right? If whatever I want my boys to be, I have to do it. I can't let Fernando teach Ethan, because my son will be like Fernando and won't be like me. So it takes training as a leader. If I see a seer, if I identify a seer in the audience, it is my job as a leader to now pull that seer in and train them. A lot of time leadership, they're too nervous about doing that. I think in general, you know.
right. I mean, yeah, but then
But
what does
you've
that
always
leave your
been
army?
one of the most wisest people I know. I'm not saying it because you're like one of my best friends. I mean, like, he's good at, no matter how excited the table is. If you ever watch Fernando, he's like, because what he is gauging is the logics. Like, and one thing he'll never do to me is no, but it's for real, right? Like, we could be in, and then people could be throwing out really good up the wall stuff, and while everybody's like, yeah, he's like, yeah, but how are we gonna get that done? Not that we. It's never like, why can't we, or we won't. How are we gonna? I get how excited you all are, but how are we gonna do it? This is what he wants. How are we gonna do it? Like, let's calm down for a second and let's and that's always been, and it's been so necessary. Like, it grounds me. It's been so grounding. So wisdom is something that I want to go on record and you all to know that this kid has a mind. I say kid just out of affection. He's older than me, but this guy has such a mind that would change the entire world. Ministry is not just about labor. You are a lot of the brains of and the logic behind Fresh Fire, and I honor you and I'm grateful for you. I wouldn't be who I am if you had not pushed me with your wisdom. So thank you, for real. What was your contribution, Kier?
I would like to say faithfulness, no matter what. Like, to always push through because you know that there's a greater purpose outside of what you're going through. Like, to keep going.
Yeah, that's it. What about the creativity that oozes out of you? How about the fact that you can create something out of nothing? Most of the time, I don't give her a lot of direction on which, because I'm really bad at knowing how to get things done. I have no idea. I was like I've said to her, I need to build a giant, and she's like, okay, like, I don't know how to get that done. Karen, was that not our conversation? And she's outside on the phone. I'm like, hey, you. I want to build a giant. She's like,
Just walking down the block. Excuse me, I just need a giant. I don't know, paper mache, this, that. I'm like, okay, we'll make it happen. We're gonna get it together.
But don't sleep on that. You were the blueprint for every set, for the lobby design. You are one of the most creative minds I've ever seen. It oozes out of you, and your business came out of what you were able to do in Fresh Fire. I am so proud of your growth, and we go way, 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 way back to Chase days where she was the only person I would sometimes be talking to. You are so creative. I think sometimes you sleep on yourself, bro. Like, we wouldn't be as creative as we was if it wasn't for you. Like, definitely. So I appreciate you. I want to go on record and say this is one of the creative minds of Fresh Fire. Everything you saw on stage, from design, from backdrop, it came from the heart and the mind of this girl. So don't sleep on yourself. You did more than just be faithful. You created, and I'm grateful to you. Dre, what was your contribution?
Listen, it was a lot. it was a lot. It's a lot of work.
Moment, Dre. Let him know. Go for it. Lay it out.
We'll be here for a while.
He know the dates.
Talk about labor.
I would just say dedicated to just making sure everything got done. As your assistant, it was just like I just took that extra responsibility to make sure whether anybody was there, whether they weren't, just to make sure it was done so that you were cool with what was going on. I mean, of course, the labor, of course, the faithfulness, but as well, I would say also just being just a positive word of encouragement for a lot of people. Just doing that without necessarily having to be seen or heard, just a text message or something like that to somebody, just to be able to help them to get along.
Yeah, and I think you were amazing at just doing the dirty work, like the conversations I didn't want to have, because sometimes things come a little harshly out of leadership. I would go, this is what she's doing. You need to go talk to them. He's like, okay. All right, cool. I'll go talk to them. And it was because sometimes you can't have certain conversations because it'll make them look at you differently, and then they can't hear what you're saying. But he was always the guy who was like, I'll do it. Like, what you need me to say to them. Building the set, staying here all times of the night. He's always a person like, just tell me exactly what you want and we gonna figure it out. And he is also you have a very creative mind also, because he would put things together. I'm like, Dre, where'd you get that from? He's like, I don't know. When I realized how crazy it was when I watched him nail every single light to the revival sign. And cutting out and just like, bro, this is what you see, this is good enough. Like the size, and then he set and nailed each light bulb to the entire sign. And I was like, what is wrong with these people? Like, how do you get this faithful? How do you build like this? I would not have been able to do that stuff without you, bro. I appreciate you. You are the one that holds the arms up without needing credit. And sometimes when you're connected to leadership, you need credit for everything. But you've always been good with pushing me and people only seeing me even though you were doing the work. And I think that is so honorable. I know that may sound like, oh, that's not something good, but it's absolutely good. We only see they held Moses' arms up, but those people had a job. And if they didn't, they would have lost the war. We would have lost the war if you wasn't holding my arms up. It was you being okay with, listen, that's what I've been sent here to do. Hold something up. That's the best part of the ministry. So thank you, man. I appreciate you. Steph, what you got?
I mean, I think my contribution was just, from the tech aspect, just making sure that we had a stream every week by any means necessary. And yeah, I mean, I think, even when it wasn't people in the necessarily in the building, but we would, at the end of every service, we would look 1,000 people, 1,500 people. So it was like that was like my responsibility now to make sure that somebody was being touched and looking, or somebody was copying or taking ideas, because like you would say, you would get people that hit you up about, oh, I'm gonna take that. I would have people that would be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this. I saw what y'all did, I'm gonna do that. So it was like, okay, this is my responsibility to not have a lapse, whether it's all camera people, no camera people, just me and somebody that never touched a camera before. It was like, all right, let's just make sure that like when it's time to go live, we can go live.
Yeah. And do you remember you used to expedite services?
Yeah.
He's always been someone who sort of like just went with the flow, like whatever you also needed, I would do. And he was a person, you were a staunch defender of Fresh Fire. And we always needed that. I'll never forget when somebody was just like talking smack about, oh, why you're not in the back? It's 10 of y'all. Because he don't want to be in the back. We're staying in the sanctuary. And I remember walking into that like, oh shoot. like thank you. Like I needed, and I was crazy about streaming, because if you all remember, at one point we were the only thing streaming from the church. Yeah. We were not streaming morning services at all. It was just what we were doing on Friday. It was how people knew we were still here because of what we were doing on Friday night. And I thought it would be like, oh man, maybe I should stop. But everyone was like, if that's what you want to do. And we would be as serious as him holding his phone to stream us from the balcony, because we didn't have stream stuff. Like what person, come on, like who would have done that?
Yo, the battery.
Buying stuff to make sure their batteries don't die. Like this is what ministry is about. It's about self-sacrifice, man. Making sure that ministry and kingdom work is at the top of your list. So bro, I thank you. I appreciate you so much. You know that. And I pray that this is your season where you're stretched out of tech stuff, because there's so much word. There is so much wisdom in you. You went through a lot of experiences so that these young boys don't have to go through that. And I think sometimes you are also victims, just like sleeping on yourself. Like, I do tech stuff, which is great, but you are a natural encourager. Like you can do that. You will do that in this next season. I see it so clear. I think that is going to shock you, because guys are going to come to your feet and need your wisdom before you come to mine. And you'll just have to brief me like, yo, I had to talk with so-and-so. They were going through such and such, and my responsibility, I knew it, thank you. Like, I'm not going to be able to reach everybody, and that's why we're here. It's so that people like you and people like you and people like y'all can just do what y'all have to do. You guys have sat under me long enough, sat with me, sat alongside me long enough to know how to operate. So, bro, I appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you. Courtney, what you got? Your list is kind of long too. Courtney has saw different sides of me in this.
One word comes to mind when I think about 10 years. I would say being an example of resilience. And I say that because, just to be truthfully transparent, I stepped away from the table in the beginning, right? And I came back, but had I not come back, I would never know that God would be able to use me in a way that he used me, knowing all the things that I've experienced, knowing all the things that I've been through. I was sleeping on myself. I'm like, no, like I can't do that. I don't want a mic. Like I was one of the timid ones. If Bishop say do this, I would be like, and the scripture said like robotic. And had it not been for you just pushing and pulling and not letting us drift away, I would never see that type of resilience in me. And I think that's key for the next generation, is to keep that resilience and being confident, knowing that whatever is thrown your way, don't walk away from the table, because you can miss God. You can take your emotions and it just interrupt his flow, and you never know who's watching. I think Pastor said it today or last week. You never know who's watching. And if I have impacted any young woman or any young man in a way to whereas, okay, if she could go through what she went through or step away and come back, and then God still do this and still trust her with the mic and still pour into her and still send confirmation that he could do that for me, that everything that I've been through was worth it. So I would say just being an example of resilience.
Yeah, I remember when I came back, when I stepped back in, and I was like, so here's the thing. When I met with Courtney, I was like, I'm doing this, but only if you come back to the table. And she's like, you would really put that on me? Here's the truth. I can't do this without you. If you don't come back to this table with me, I won't do this. It will be no Fresh Fire. And the next time we had a meeting, she was sitting there, and it took her a while to get back in, but it was because I needed you, and I still need you. And that's one of the things I always say is there are certain people I need everybody at this table. I need you all, and you were one of those people. No matter how frustrated I am, Courtney has this annoying thing where she's calm and she's collected and she's hearing me out, and she's okay. Let's pray. I'm like, sometimes you just want somebody to complain with you. You know what I mean? Like, hear what and she's like, no, you're not going to give up. We're not going to quit. You're not going to be stressed out about this. God is with you. I've seen him do. And she just encouraged me. I'm like, dang, why not? I should have texted somebody.
You should have called me, bro.
I should have called Fern, because Fern is going to be like, bro, you know how that is.
Wrap it up. Let's go. We out of here, bro.
But Courtney never let me quit. She has always been my chief encourager. I mean, beside my wife, she has always been the person who was like, you're not doing that. We're not quitting. No, you're not going to not do it. You're not going to be frustrated. What do you need? And I would call her with all types of ideas, and she's like, that's easy. Let's get it done. I'll call Dre. I'll call this one. She's always been that left arm to me, and I am so grateful. And I say this publicly all the time: there isn't a me without all of you, and especially you. I don't want to do ministry without y'all. That's just you have God with you. Yeah, I know that. but every oil, every anointing needs a container, and you guys have been that container for my oil. You have been such a stronghold to my ministry. I'm so grateful for you. Like you have been. Your services are some of the greatest experiences in Fresh Fire. And I watched you grow from every single year, and I'm like, what is developing in this girl? Like that last one you had with that demonstration, I was just like, and it may feel like God. Sometimes it feels like when God places His oil on us, it's to make people laugh at us, but your oil was to perfect you. Everything you went through was to perfect who you're going to be. And I think sometimes we get distracted by issues and troubles and problems, but we got to learn how to use that stuff. And I watched you learn how to use that stuff to be great. I'm so proud of you, and I love you so, so much. You are such an important part of my family, such an important part of my life, and I could not do this without you. And there's more to come. There's more to come. What you got, girl?
I think my contribution has been more on the practical side, just being your wife and having the strength that I have and being able to allow you to flow where you need to flow and have vision, and not being a nagging wife, and not being just making sure it's peace in our home so that you could be in a space where you can hear from God, where you can get vision and you have space to study and space to do the things that you need to do for ministry. Just holding down our house so you don't have to worry about those things. Just knowing not to ask you for things, for money during certain parts of the year, because, Fresh Fire is getting a little piece of your pockets. But I would just say being your support at home, keeping peace in our house, making sure our home is conducive for like love, joy, and happiness, so that you can just hear from God and not be, so much that you have to deal with on the ministry side. I don't want to be the person or the reason why you are, dealing with things at home, because it's difficult enough as a man, as a leader, as a visionary. So just making sure I'm strong within myself, just making sure I'm doing the things that I need to do at home so that you can have peace and do what you need to do on the ministry side.
And for like a good 3-4 years, you were the person who, I don't know if people noticed, you did all the flyers. She was the only person who worked our social media. The only reason we had posts. She did a newsletter. She created that playbill. She did all of that stuff. You were one of the biggest parts of Fresh Fire, and she served as an idea dartboard. Right, a lot of things that didn't make it to Fresh Fire because they didn't make it past her. I would say I want to do such and such. She'd be like, go back to the mountain on that one. And on a more technical and more transparent side, you were a lifesaver, not a ministry saver. I would not be alive if it wasn't for your love, if it wasn't for your support. God did it through you. Of course, this is going to sound strange to those crazy people. It's like, what? He's taking it from God. If it wasn't for God through my wife, there would be no email right here. You saved my life. And I think that is the most important, because we wouldn't be having a conversation. And this is the last part I want to say to you all, is that we have succeeded in becoming a part of the legacy of Pilgrim Church. Watch this. In the last 10 years, you will never be able to talk about Pilgrim without talking about what Fresh Fire did. We have embedded ourselves in the history of this church. There was no 10 years if you try to take out what we did. That's just fact. So you all have become a part of the legacy. And I'm so proud of everything that you have done, everything that we are going to do this season. And even as things transition and things shift and things change, the things that God's going to do, I can move forward because I know there's a team in place. And I'm so excited for that. All right, I love y'all. I'm done. Any last minute thoughts you want to share before we go?
Nah, man, it's over. Listen, it was a great run. I just can't wait to see what they do with it after. Mm-hmm. I know God's gonna move through them. I trust that you hear His voice and the things that you're lining up to be in place after you. It's gonna excel. Good. Just keep the momentum and just understand that there's an end result, and that's what you want to get towards. Everybody feels a certain way. Work happens, life happens. A lot of external variables will always come up, but just stick the course, and go for the end result. And if things don't happen the way you see them, it's always gonna happen the way God wants them to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else have a word of advice for the next team coming in? As we transition out, they transition in. What's your thoughts? What do you want to say to them?
They keep telling me and Dre that we can't quit. Hello? Hello? We done?
Y'all gonna
but seriously, just knowing that we are here for y'all. We support y'all. We stepping back, but we not stepping away. We love y'all and we support y'all 100%.
That's good. That's good.
Continuing to build with each other. Don't let any side personal things
get
in the way in the way of the goal, right? So you just got to make sure you continue to build that, right? Because I don't think we had any big major nothing like that, right? And even if it was something so small that got nipped in the bud so quick that nobody would ever know. So just sticking to building that relationship with each other to just work through whatever it is. Stay together.
Yeah, I mean that's yeah. I mean, yeah, I think that's it. I mean, like you kind of said it. Yeah, I mean, we 10 years later, and yeah, the biggest thing is just faithfulness. Like, I mean, that's kind of been a theme of like this whole however long we've been talking. It's just like faithfulness and staying with it, and like in the good times and the bad times, and just kind of like just rocking it out and not giving up. And I think for the next 10 years, that's what it's going to take, because we don't, whatever that new wave is and whatever it looks like, and once y'all take it to the next level, you're not always going to agree, but you're going to have to stick with it. It might be services where, it's not a lot of people. It might be services where you don't have a lot of people on the stream, and it might be services where you get a little pushback, but it's like you just got to stick with it and stay faithful. And then, hopefully you end up, little movie reference, Marvel did their 10 years, and at the end, they had Endgame was one of the biggest movies. So this is our Endgame, and then now it's time for y'all to take it into phase 5. Yeah.
I was not to be deep, but just take time, spend more time with God, like on a personal level. Because you're a part of this big movement, because you're a part of Pilgrim Church in general, the enemy is mad. And you have to stay a few steps ahead of him. So just know he's going to send distraction. He's going to try to send discouragement. He's going to try to send thoughts in your head, oh, I should have just left. But just stay planted and know that God has you here. He has you here for a reason. Spend time with him, pray, worship, don't give up. You'll be all right. We always a call away.
Yeah, definitely.
Stick with each other, trust each other. That's going to be a big one. Not giving up, noticing that it will be hard sometimes, but we'll be here to kind of not hold your hand, but just be a bit of a guiding light for you guys. Yeah, and just stay the path. We did it for 10 years. I got it for the next 10.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I would say ignore people and trust God. I wish someone would have told me that 10 years ago. We would be in a whole different space. You guys get to go in with that. Ignore what people say and only go on what God has already said. Because everything you're walking into is not new. God has already said it. So you ignore what people are saying, live with what he's already said, and you will be powerful. I love you all so much. Thank you for sticking with us. I know this conversation was long, but I pray it was good. It blessed you. Get ready for season 10. It's going to be crazy.